Hi, this presentation is for Fort Hays State University Transition to Teaching Programs, Class 803. It's part of our second module, and it's a case study dealing with safe schools. We were given different case studies to choose from. The case study that I chose was Punishing Choices, Challenges of Mandating Reporting, and I'm reviewing the case study, and my name is Joe Wood. We'll begin with discussing the context of the overall case study. So the Punishing Choices case study centered around a teacher's decision to report as a mandated reporter. In this instance, it centers around the use of at-home corporal punishment. And so kind of the questions that it calls in is, what is the definition of child abuse? Does it vary depending on regions? There's lots of studies that show social norms based on where you live and what's deemed socially acceptable for forms of corporal punishment varies from state to state, and culture, backgrounds, ethnicities, social economical classes. It ranges in a number of those different areas, and so kind of understanding what the societal norms are for the area, especially if you're a teacher that's kind of a transplant from a vastly different environment, and basically how far is too far when it comes to corporal punishment at home, and when does it step across the line to abuse or to neglect. And so that's kind of the issues that this case study brings up for discussion. So as we break into this case study, which the information for the case study will be in my references if you would like to go back and have a look at it. But Denise Harrison is the mother. She's a parent volunteer at an elementary school. Amanda Whitford is a third grade teacher at that elementary school, and so they have a good working relationship. Denise is one of those parents that comes in and volunteers a lot. Jamal is Denise's son and the potential victim of abuse. Denise Harrison's new boyfriend would potentially be the abuser in this case study. And after Amanda, Miss Whitford, the teacher, has conversations with Denise through their kind of semi-working relationship as a teacher and a parent volunteer. And Amanda calls Denise in to have conversation about some bruises that she had noticed. And Miss Harrison's basically her explanation of it is that they discipline their son no different than other families discipline their son, and that the behavior changes that they've seen in Jamal recently have been due to a new boyfriend. And so Jamal's, essentially from mom's perspective, is behavior changes has been due to a lack, the fact that her attention has been divided between Jamal and her new boyfriend. And the teacher, Miss Whitford, is concerned that Jamal is being potentially questionably abused by the new boyfriend in the new form of corporal punishment that's taken place in the household with the new adult male figure in the home. But yeah, Jamal's some of the bruises have gotten bigger and darker, and so that's why she called a meeting to address kind of what was happening. Background for the overall for the federal government background, and then also for we'll cover also some of the Tennessee statutes that are that influence this case. So from a legality standpoint, the federal government has the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act. For the state of Kansas, as I kind of reflect on this as a teacher in Kansas teachers are mandated reporters. If a teacher suspects a child is abused or neglected, they are mandated to report to DCF here in the state of Kansas. And if a teacher fails to report, they can be charged with a Class B misdemeanor. So those are some of the legalities behind the situation. From a Tennessee standpoint, and this is all quoted information from the case study. So their state permits reasonable corporal punishment, but there's no guidelines to define what's reasonable. The Department for Child Services in Tennessee states that physical abuse is non-accidental trauma or physical injury of a child or failure to protect a child from harm. The DCF also notes that every Tennessee citizen is a mandated reporter of child abuse. And then at the same time, the DCS in Tennessee notes that bruises and marks don't automatically equal child abuse, leaving much room for interpretation as to whether or not to report an incident. So analysis kind of from my perspective after reading the case study, digging through some of the information that's out there, kind of a very simple report or not report, kind of compare and contrast. In report, you would want to report based on the bruises and the changes in behavior that you've seen where you suspect that there are changes in behavior. Could be mental abuse, bruises, obviously physical abuse, and then reasons not to report that they're kind of that the teacher's going through. She did seek some counsel through the process through another teacher who had a similar incident that ended up reporting, and then basically the student got taken from the family and was bounced around different foster cares and had been abused, and it was an example of where reporting kind of had gone wrong due to the state of Tennessee's foster care system being in a bad place at the time. And then obviously the reason not reporting is that maybe you are making a bigger deal than what it really seems and what it is. For me, as I would kind of compare and think through this process for myself, to be honest, I would go to an administrator at my school. I have 3 great principals that do a really good job. Obviously, main principal and then 2 assistant principals, and I would be really comfortable talking with any and all 3 of them, and kind of bringing the situation to them, and kind of going back and forth on what they thought I should do, and then based on that decision. But my gut feeling is that I would feel the necessity to report the incident for myself, and given if I was in this circumstance that this case study puts together. So and then these are the references. Obviously the first reference is the actual case study. The second one is basically a report on mandatory reporters from the federal government. And then the third and last one is an interview of, I believe his name is Tom Buell, that KSN did on television, and a lot of the information that I pulled regarding Kansas information was pulled from that reference. So thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.